full control at any point during the game, say for a couple of minutes. But Cece, you and I spent time in Philadelphia. We know these fans. This is the most amazing thing that's pretty much ever happened to them at this point. They are still partying strong, I'm sure, in Philly. How were they able to pull off the upset last night?
Well, we thought two of the biggest differences in these teams was the defensive front with their 7-man rotation, but New England's offensive line, their game plan negated them. The other unit that we thought had a decisive advantage against New England was the offensive line. And you got to give credit to the head coach because his ability to continue to be aggressive. And I think there's some benefit to having a backup or someone that you didn't have a lot of tape on running this offense. Yeah, Nick Foles has been a starter. He's played a lot of games. But this New England team, they had only had 5 games of tape. So for me, I think that there have been a couple other quarterbacks, Hostetler, Doug Williams, that have gone on as backups to win Super Bowls. But I believe there was an advantage. And there's also an advantage that his coach allowed this team to play aggressive. They did it a lot like New England, too. They started off one way. They started off feeding Alshon Jeffries, and then they switched it around. They had 5 receivers with 3 or more catches. So even after Alshon started it, he didn't get hot again. Then they started moving around Aguilar, the running game. So they were able to move. When you can get 10 first down, a third down conversion, twice as many as New England. When you punt one time, when you get 9 minutes more on time of possession, like your chances of beating New England are going to be very, very high. I like the fact last week we never talked about the Eagles. They have to play a perfect game. They have to create all these turnovers. No, we thought the Eagles had a better roster.
Right.
And they played with confidence from the beginning. They took control of the game. New England finally had a lead later in the game, but their ability to come out and have that 7-minute drive to start the game and 7 minutes after they lost the lead late in the game, those things right there were 2 huge stories. And those 2 drives right there, I believe, won them the game.
That's the ball game. New England down the entire way, clawing back, finally takes the lead with a lot of time left, over 9 minutes left, when they take that lead in the fourth quarter, 33-32. And what does Philadelphia do? 14 plays, 75 yards, with 2 third-down conversions and a 4th down conversion mixed in. By the way, who got the 2 third-down conversions, the touchdown, and the 4th down conversion? I think the most talented player on their offense, Zach Ertz. They went to a guy who had helped get them there on their biggest plays of the season. Cece, you mentioned that they were 10 of 16 on third downs. But they were also 2 of 2 on 4th downs. So they were, in essence, 12 out of the 16 times New England could have gotten them off the field.
Yes, great point.
New England failed to do it. That was the
same thing how Atlanta lost last year's Super Bowl.
Yes.
They could not get off the field on third down. New England took advantage of it, and we saw the Eagles do the same thing.
It was, because people also have to understand the context of that drive. 14 plays, 75 yards to retake the lead. I know the strip sack ended up being the thing that didn't quite ice it, but came close to it. But on that drive, New England had the ball going into that drive for Philadelphia 3 times in the second half. Here's what they did. 8 plays, 75 yards, touchdown. 7 plays, 75 yards, touchdown. 10 plays, 75 yards, touchdown. New England was methodically kicking their butts down the field in the second half, and Philadelphia answered.
Right. It was important that they had a drive to get some points, but it was more important that they let the defense rest.
Yeah.
And it was more important that they were able to send the message as far as their overall aggressiveness that we're not going to just let you guys come back, because it looked like a typical New England comeback win.
Right. And with this kind of game, success begets confidence. And Doug Peterson went into this game thinking, hey, we're not going to lose, but if we do, we're certainly not going to lose by not being aggressive. Like, we're going all out. We're going to throw everything we have at him. And that showed with Nick Foles. It gave him confidence right off the bat to be aggressive, to march down the field, and that led to his confidence the rest of the game.
And I know we're going to talk about Foles extensively in a bit, but on Doug Peterson, the play, not only going for it on 4th and 1,
but the way they did.
But the play he did far too often. I feel like coaches don't do what they really want to do out of fear of criticism. Like, I'd like to go for it here, but no one's going to criticize me if I take the points. Doug Peterson doubled down on leaning into the criticism. Oh, I'm going to go for it on fourth and goal, but I'm also going to call the trickiest of all trick plays, a reverse pass back to my quarterback. That is, to me, surpassed Sean Payton for the onside kick, for gutsiest call in a Super Bowl that I've ever seen. He was extraordinary, was Doug Peterson, in his continual aggressiveness throughout the game.
Yeah, and also the coach knows his personnel. Trey Burton came to the University of Florida as a quarterback. All right, so he has the overall experience. They moved Trey to tight end at the University of Florida after being a high school quarterback. He also played some quarterback and threw some passes in college. So you're trying to utilize your whole roster. Doug Peterson's able to do that. He puts in a play at the perfect time. I don't think coaches worry about the criticism. I think coaches try to play the percentages, and they try to go for a safer play. Most coaches think alike. The thing that's different with Doug Peterson and Frank Wright, the offensive coordinator, is they are going about it a little bit different. And I think that with Doug, that's kind of his calling card. The same way Ron Rivera. That's the way he kind of, besides defense, he was Riverboat Ron. And that's what, people started realizing how aggressive. Belichick has been aggressive for a long, long time.
And the flip side, by the way, the coach on the other side, the greatest coach ever, all respect to Bill Belichick, he's been known for his defense. This is the worst defensive game the Patriots have ever played in the playoffs. The most points they've ever given up, the most yards they've ever given up. Belichick, some of the small things he usually does brilliantly. At the end of the clock, at the end of the first half, didn't use his timeouts properly. Belichick got out-coached by a young head coach in Doug Peterson.
And Belichick, I don't know the reason why Malcolm Butler was not on the field, but for one play. But for a guy in the 2017 season who played more snaps, he played 97% of all New England Patriots snaps. And you didn't have a defensive package that he was a healthy, so he was basically a healthy scratch that he didn't play in. Belichick helped the Eagles by not having Malcolm Butler on that football field, because there's some X's and O's situation that New England, because Philadelphia is a predominantly three-receiver offense, Malcolm Butler and how they play defense would have been perfect against that Eagles offense.
Were you more surprised that the Eagles won, or the way they went about doing it?
The way they won.
Okay.
The way they won. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I mean, I picked the Patriots. I thought the Eagles could win. I didn't think that the Eagles have no shot. I thought the Eagles could win. If you'd have told me Tom Brady going to throw for 500
yards.
The Pats are going to go 58 minutes without a turnover. They're not going to punt the whole game. No way. This was, to me, shocking. The way Jacksonville beating the Steelers surprised me. The way they beat them was shocking. The way Philly won this game, to me, CC, was shocking.
I don't think shocking. If you'd say Nick Foles is going to have a quarterback rating of 100, I would have said the Eagles were going to win the game, because they have a better roster. The Eagles have a great football team that just happened to have their backup quarterback playing the last 6 games.
All right, we're not going to talk about the Super Bowl anymore. We have basketball for the next 3 hours. No, we're just getting started. Coming up, how was Nick Foles able to go from backup to Super Bowl MVP? Talk about that next on First Things First.